The roll has been called and a quorum has not been established.
Most of the Democrats in the Texas House left the state, breaking quorum to block a plan to give Republicans 5 more seats in Congress.
They take away the voice and the vote of Texans, and I don't agree with that. So I'm very proud to be here in opposition of the map.
Texas Republicans fighting back, calling for unprecedented penalties.
I believe they have forfeited their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do.
The battle at the Capitol and in the courts over the quorum break to stop redistricting in Texas. Youth camp representatives face questions at the state capitol as lawmakers look for ways to keep children safe from future floods.
Should one of the standards be that you just don't have overnight accommodations in the floodplain?
The proposals and the pushback on ideas to make campsites safer after the deadly floods.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. We've seen House Democrats break quorum before, but the response this time is different. Republican leaders have called on the state Supreme Court and even the FBI to get the lawmakers back to Austin. Capitol correspondent Adam Schwager looks at how some of those efforts are playing out in Austin and other parts of the country.
There being 95 members present, a quorum is not present.
The Texas House further from hitting quorum than they were on Tuesday. El Paso Democrat Mary Gonzalez showed up for the first time this week, while Democrats Eddie Morales and Terry Canales disappeared after showing up on Tuesday.
The political cost of your absence is rising, and it will be paid in full.
After the roll call, Speaker of the House Dustin Burrows laid out new rules for members, encouraging them to show up in person.
The Democrats underestimated our level of cohesion as a party. So now you have the governor, lieutenant governor, the legislative bodies, and the attorney general working together to enforce this quorum. Also,
shortly after roll call, Attorney General Ken Paxton filed a new lawsuit with the Texas Supreme Court, asking them to vacate not just Jean Wu's seat, as Governor Greg Abbott has asked, but the seats of 13 quorum breakers.
This is it's comical. But what we're fighting against is not comical. What they're doing at this very moment is seeking the absolute destruction of our democracy.
Wu responded to Abbott's lawsuit Friday afternoon, saying neither the governor nor the court has the power to remove him, and his colleagues officially weighed in, with Gonzalez and Joe Moody writing a brief in support of him, and Mitch Little and Briscoe Cain writing in support of Abbott.
There is some line where somebody's been so dilatory that they've disrupted the process that something must be done, and we believe the court may have that power.
Before leaving the chamber, Burrows told all members to be ready to get back to Austin with 6 hours' notice this weekend in the event officials detain enough Democrats to have a quorum. If not, they'll try again on Monday. In Austin, I'm Adam Schwager.
Thanks, Adam. The push to potentially penalize donations to fund the quorum break goes beyond the case against Representative Wu. Legal action is also targeting groups making donations to help Democrats. On Wednesday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton opened an investigation into Beto O'Rourke's organization, Power the People.
We welcome his investigation. We welcome his attack. We welcome their hatred right now because it proves that we're doing the right thing.
The group is raising funds to help Texas House Democrats who fled the state. Paxton says that amounts to bribery. Governor Abbott and other Republicans have echoed that claim.
what you can't do as a state representative, you can't receive money to violate a duty to the state of Texas.
U.S. Senator John Cornyn called on the FBI to help Texas in locating lawmakers. It's not clear if they can arrest anyone to bring them back to Texas, but Democrats are bracing for that possibility.
We don't know, but I anticipate with Donald Trump as our president that they can. And we're all prepared to do that.
Many Democrats who left the state say they're undeterred by the legal penalties and expensive fines. They say there are bigger things at stake.
I'll pay that price for America. And I think everyone behind me would say they would do the same.
The Democrats' quorum break is not likely to stop the Texas redistricting plan, but it has been drawing attention and support for plans to redraw districts in states that could help Democrats. Governors in California, Illinois, and New York have raised the possibility of drawing new blue districts. But redistricting could also come to more red states. On Thursday, Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to Indiana to discuss changing districts to help Republicans. Earlier this week, we caught up with State Senator Mays Middleton. After the quorum breakers fled the state, Middleton filed a bill to automatically remove members who miss more than 7 straight days of work.
We're not going to back down. These Democrats that have fled to Illinois have quit on their job. And when Texans don't show up for work, guess what happens? They get fired. So we need to make sure that they're held fully accountable and are terminated from their job and fill these positions in a special election. And that's what this bill would do. Obviously, we have to reestablish a quorum, but there are arrest warrants out right now. And we need to make sure that they're found and brought back as swiftly as possible. I believe 57 total were signed by the Speaker of the House. The governor, our Speaker, have DPS out looking right now for these runaway Democrats, and they fled to one of the most liberal states and most failed states in America, and they're asking their governor to help them do their job for them. Well, they need to show up for work here. You know, when you put your hand on the Bible to protect and defend the laws and the Constitution of the state of Texas, that doesn't just mean when you agree with everything. You're here to show up whether you agree or disagree. And you don't just show up when you know you're going to win. You show up to fight, and unfortunately, they've abandoned the fight. They have left this state, and they've quit on their constituents, and they've quit on their job.
Middleton is also running to become the state's attorney general. He said he supports the AG taking a more active role in forcing Democrats to return to the Capitol.
One of the most important things is the arrest warrants. We have to detain them. Then we have to file an action, a quo warranto action, in every single one of their districts to remove them from office. And then after that, something else needs to happen. We need to have a special election to fill those positions with those that will show up to work and will do their job, and then they have to pay their penalties. A lot of people are forgetting right now they're penalized for every single day they're not here and not showing up to work. So those runaway Democrats owe the people of Texas for that.
Beyond the legal battles, the Democrats' tactic of breaking quorum requires a commitment to potentially spend months away from home. Adam Schwager spoke Wednesday with Dallas area Democrat Cassandra Garcia Hernandez, who talked about the financial and personal challenges of breaking quorum.
What are some of the sacrifices you're personally making to be there, things that you have to give up that you're leaving behind in Texas?
Sure. Well, when I'm not a legislator, I'm a lawyer, so I practice in civil and immigration law. And so, whenever we're in the meat of work and I can't be in my office, that also means I don't have the opportunity to do a lot of the work that I need to do for my clients. And so, business obviously is impacted. We don't get paid, as I'm sure you know, we don't get paid a ton of money to be a legislator. And so a lot of us are having to sacrifice income in order to be here. In addition to that, I've got so many colleagues who have children. We even have 2 who brought 2 of their little ones. But we've got a substantial amount of folks who have children who are being watched back home for them, older children, being away from family. My parents were very, very concerned this morning whenever they learned about the bomb threat that happened this morning. And on top of that, today is mine and my husband's anniversary. And unfortunately, we can't celebrate that together because I'm here. But of course, he understands that this is something bigger than us. And as many of us legislators, elected officials recognize, is that very often it's a sacrifice for our families in the work that we're doing. But I'm proud to be here. But this is a national issue. And so we are all willing to make those sacrifices and pay those fines and potentially even, if it does happen, lose our seats because this is that important.
Republicans say Democrats are blocking important business at the Capitol, specifically bills related to the recent Texas floods. House Speaker Dustin Burrows made that point from the dais Friday after the House failed to reach quorum.
Dr. Greg Bonning will file House Bill 3, the House's priority legislation for flood recovery and infrastructure funding. Developed after 25 hours of testimony from Texans whose lives were upended by the July 4th floods. To those in California, Illinois, New York, or Massachusetts, wherever you may be, hear this. The bill cannot be referred to committee without a quorum. Every hour you remain away is time stolen from those Texans in need.
The special session is scheduled to run through August 19th, but the governor has vowed to keep calling lawmakers back until redistricting is done. In an interview for NBC's Today Show, Abbott said, quote, Democrats act like they're not going to come back as long as this is an issue. That means they're not going to come back until like 2027 or 2028 because I'm going to call special session after special session. For perspective, Governor Abbott called 3 special sessions in 2021. The Democrats' quorum break ended by the third one, and in 2023, Abbott called 4 special sessions in an attempt to pass education savings account legislation.
Safety is just not a box that we check. It's actually a culture we are cultivating.
Questions for camps as lawmakers look for ways to keep children safe from future floods. We get insight into the solutions moving forward at the Capitol and what's getting shot down. A lottery winner hit the jackpot, but questions over how she bought the ticket kept her from getting the money.
You have an agenda you want to advance? Fine. But don't change the rules in the middle of the game.
Now a big change, why she's getting paid, despite the ongoing push to change how Texans play the lottery. Youth camp representatives faced lawmakers at a hearing at the state capitol. They came to propose and push back on some ideas aimed at making sites safer following deadly flooding in the Hill Country. Investigator Matt Grant has been tracking these developments and was at the Capitol to learn what industry leaders want to happen now and what they don't want.
If you went to anyone in the industry and say, who is the kindest camp director in America, they would have said Jane Ragsdale.
A camp director in Hunt for 4 decades, Jane Ragsdale died during the July 4th floods, her memory driving her cousin, Steve Baskin, to seek solutions.
She wanted to positively impact children, but she also understood it can only be done on a firm foundation of safety and health.
To reinforce that foundation, the Texas House Culture, Recreation, and Tourism Committee heard testimony from camp industry representatives, including Baskin, who owns a Marble Falls camp and is board chair of the American Camp Association. Some solutions considered include requiring weather radios.
I would very strongly recommend it, partly because they work even when the power is out.
Warning sirens.
If it's so alarming to children, that worries me.
And whether camp cabins should even be built in flood zones.
Should one of the standards be that you just don't have overnight accommodations in the floodplain?
There are ways to build cabins in flood zones safely, and there are ways that I would not build cabins, particularly in flash flood areas. Again, it's very specific to different sites.
27 campers and counselors at Camp Mystic died in the floods. As we previously found, unlike 8 other camps in Kerr County, Camp Mystic was not nationally accredited by the ACA, which recommends voluntary compliance with up to 266 health and safety standards.
Do you think that played any role or could have made a difference in how the response was handled?
My understanding is the nature of this flood, I don't believe so. No, I don't think that would have made a difference.
What made a difference for Meg Clark's camp, a different all-girl site near Mystic in Kerr County, regularly updating emergency and evacuation plans annually and reviewing them with first responders in person.
Safety is just not a box that we check. It's actually a culture we are cultivating.
On Tuesday, the House Committee on Disaster Planning and Flooding heard testimony on 5 bills. One of them would require camps submit annual disaster flood plans to the Texas Division of Emergency Management, which must be approved or face fines. Matt Grant, State of Texas.
At Tuesday's hearing, Representative Terry Wilson mentioned the American Camp Association's accreditation standards, proposing to require some of them in order to be licensed in Texas. Baskin said lawmakers should look at anything that can help make camps safer. On Friday, the Senate Committee on Disaster Preparedness discussed additional legislation to prevent another deadly disaster. One measure would require camps located within a floodplain to evacuate when there's a flash flood warning for the area. Another measure being considered would require at least one outdoor warning siren in flood-prone areas. Local counties would install, maintain, and operate them, with a grant program being established to help with costs. Another proposal would subject the Upper Guadalupe River Authority to limited sunset review in 2027. The UGRA came under fire for not installing sirens. Lawmakers want to scrutinize the way it's governed, its response and readiness to natural disasters, the way it operates, and if it complies with legislative requirements. The response to the July floods could bring improvements to the way Texas handles death investigations. The new legislation being considered and how it could help address challenges facing the system. She bought a lucky lottery ticket, but legal action blocked her from getting the multi-million-dollar jackpot. Now, a new development, why she's finally getting paid. Concerns surrounding Texas's system for investigating death reemerged this week at the state capitol during Tuesday's House hearing in response to recent fatal flooding. House Bill 1 largely focuses on concerns surrounding flood victim backlogs and identification issues in Kerr County, where at least 117 people died last month. In Texas, most counties, including Kerr, don't have their own medical examiner and instead utilize elected justices of the peace for death inquests. Justices there were inundated and had to rely on medical examiners from Bexar and Travis counties for necessary autopsies, along with teams from the University of North Texas Health Science Center for rapid DNA testing.
We have great justices of the peace all over the state. Frontline citizens, frontline elected officials doing a tremendous amount of work. I think in certain circumstances when we have an overwhelming event like this there is always the need for additional resource, understanding, and capability.
We don't know what the next disaster is. We don't know what form it's going to take or when it's going to come. What we can do is mitigate the devastation that comes with the next disaster, and this is just one of the bills that's attempting to do that.
Among other items, House Bill 1 aims to establish a training program for justices on managing mass fatality events, including autopsy referrals, identifying bodies, and coordinating with other agencies. Justices who fail to take the training during the first year they're elected could be removed from office. The bill was left pending in committee. Our team has been digging into challenges with the state's death investigation system, especially when it comes to criminal cases, for more than a year. Check out our complete coverage by clicking the Hanging on the Backbone Creek link in this week's State of Texas story on our website.
We're happy to report that the monies have been paid.
A lottery winner hits the jackpot despite an investigation into how she bought the ticket, the controversy, and the ongoing push to change how Texans play the lottery. Six months after she purchased a winning lottery ticket, a Houston woman is getting her multi-million-dollar jackpot. The delay is due to an investigation tied to how she bought the winning ticket. Capitol correspondent Dylan McKim has been following this case and spoke with the attorney for the jackpot winner about the decision.
We're happy to report that the monies have been paid.
After months of waiting and legal battles, Houston woman Kristen Moriarty is getting paid her lottery winnings. She was caught in a political fight over the Texas lottery after she bought $20 worth of tickets on an app called Jackpocket. Republican lawmakers argued apps like that were illegal under state law and worked to ban them during the legislative session. Governor Greg Abbott ordered the Texas Rangers to investigate Moriarty's win, and the Texas Lottery refused to pay her the winnings until after the investigation ended.
You have an agenda you want to advance? Fine. But don't change the rules in the middle of the game.
She hired this man, Randy Howery, to represent her in a suit against the state. Before a hearing in court, the Attorney General's office contacted Howery to say they would allow the lottery pay out the winnings, even though the Rangers' investigation is still ongoing.
There's no basis not to pay. And we're assuming that the state learned that, the AG's office knew that, and that they made the decision to do the right thing.
We reached out to the Attorney General's office to ask why it decided to allow the jackpot payout, but we have not received a response. Dylan McKim, State of Texas.
The Texas Lottery is currently being shifted over to the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation after the legislature voted to dissolve the Texas Lottery Commission. The concern from lawmakers about lottery couriers started long before Kristen Moriarty bought her winning ticket. The issue gained attention in April of 2023 when a group won a $95 million Lotto Texas jackpot. The group, known as Rook Texas, spent $25 million to buy tickets with nearly every number combination and had help from lottery retailers to process the massive amount of tickets. Some lawmakers raised concerns about criminal activity, calling the win a likely case of money laundering. While state lawmakers were looking into the lottery, Moriarty bought her winning ticket using a lottery courier. That led Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick to make a surprise visit to the Winner's Corner store in Austin, where the jackpot ticket was sold. Patrick posted video to social media showing a storefront selling board games, but he said the store had around 30 lottery terminals in the back, constantly spitting out tickets for people buying remotely. Patrick called for ending online sales, and lawmakers agreed, passing a bill to ban lottery couriers. Lawmakers also put limits on the number of tickets anyone could buy in a single purchase, capping it at 100 tickets. Thank you again for joining us for State of Texas. I'm Josh Hinkle. We'll be back next week to bring you an in-depth look at Texas politics.